All right, we are live. So let's call to order the February 2nd, 2021 Conservation Board meeting to order. It is 6:32 p.m. On the agenda tonight, we have two items. We have the Heinemann Solar Array, and sorry if I mispronounce. And then we have the Fairways Phase 3 final that we have in front of us. So looks like the Heinemann solar array is up first. So applicant is requesting approval to install a 10 kilowatt ground mounted solar array. And I'm reading off my other screen here, so that's why I'm looking away. But this is in the limited development district, so it's in front of us for in front of the planning board for approval. Obviously, our input from the conservation side of things here. So, Dave, you are online? Why don't you give us a little background on the project and a narrative, and then I'm sure there's going to be some questions. I have at least one or two questions here, so I'll hand the floor over to you.
All right, thank you. Yeah, what I'm proposing is to put a ground-mounted array in the meadow. I have a 6-acre lot. It's wooded around the perimeter, and it's open in the center. We have a meadow there, which would be appropriate place for the solar installation. And it is pretty much screened from the neighbors. The nearest neighbor to that, where I would locate it, would be approximately 300 to 400 feet away. And that's it. It's a grid tied system. So
thank you. Yes, thank you for sharing that, Susie.
Well, what else would you like to know?
So I'm just looking at the Google Maps, or maybe it's Encore. I'm looking at either way. It looks like that view. I think it's right. It looks like there's an old garden. It's almost just the northern part, right? The center, east and west, and northern part of the property. Is that where approximately it's going?
That's correct. Just to the north of where that garden plot is.
Okay. And then you have some inverters, and you have the power line, obviously, that runs up to your house.
Right, which would be buried approximately 240 feet to the house. The inverters would be at the array, and the connection to the utility line would be at the just ahead of the breaker panel in the basement of the house.
Gotcha.
And I have applied to RG&E for interconnection permit, and they have okayed it.
Okay. How are these? I've always been curious how these arrays. How are they? I guess how are they installed into the ground? Are they cemented footers? Or are they?
Yes. I did include a cross in there showing the footers. They consist of a hole drilled 6 feet down, filled with concrete, and then the support pipes are set in the concrete. I believe 2 foot down into the concrete. Okay. And that's the footing, and the structure is made of 3-inch steel Schedule 40 pipe with engineered connectors and hardware, and it is all engineered withstand high wind shear factor, and all the engineering factors are calculated by the manufacturer.
Just for my own edification, what's the typical life on this like solar array? How long can you expect to keep it and and installed and operational?
Well, the panels are warranted for 25 years. Realistically, they can last quite a bit longer. The structure should last indefinitely, so panels could be replaced. The inverters, I believe, are warranted for 10 years. So I may have to replace them sometime down the line within the lifespan of the panels. But I do expect to get 25 to 30 years useful life out of the system.
Okay.
With major improvements.
Yeah, and again, just so for the board, for your perspective, this is in the limited development district of Victor, so that's why it's in front of us for our review and our comment. I don't see any concerns from a conservation perspective, but let's go around. I guess Pat, Keith, Tim. Any comments, concerns, questions?
I have questions were similar to yours, Andrew, like the lifespan, and how long this thing would last. But so that's pretty straightforward, along with like the digging and what would entail that line back to the house. So I don't have anything further. It does look like from the aerial that your neighbors will have some screening and kind of cover. So that's very helpful from my perspective, but nothing else on my end.
The only question I had was simply this being a solar array. Obviously, sun is important. Would you? Doesn't look like you'd have to disturb any trees to put it in the ground. But as far as trimming them for shade or anything, do you expect having to do that, or where it's located, that wouldn't be required?
Actually, the spot is pretty ideal because the trees just to the south of it is an old orchard, and those trees won't grow very much taller. So really, the only obstruction is a large walnut tree mostly to the west, and I don't anticipate ever cutting that down. So really shouldn't require any maintenance as far as trimming trees and that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
When do you anticipate the project starting?
Well, I'm shooting for next month, assuming that the planning board approves it. Then I would plan to order the materials, and it takes about a month to get them. And then I start digging in March, probably late March.
Gotcha. Assuming you can.
Okay.
Okay. Keith, you got anything? Any questions, comments?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not capturing any notes. I guess, the ask here is kind of an acknowledgement, and if there's any comments, and I guess the answer to that is we certainly acknowledge this project in front of us, and I don't have any actions or comments or suggestions. So I'm from the conservation board perspective, I think you've cleared that hurdle.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, if there's no other questions, or Dave, if you have any, if you don't have any other questions, we're going to move on. And as of course, if you do, feel free to reach out to to the planning department. Kim and team can certainly get a hold of us as needed.
Okay. Very good.
Okay. Well, you're welcome to stick around, but we're going to move on to the second item on the agenda.
Okay, I guess I'll sign off then. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, the Fairways Phase 3 final here is the second agenda item. So this is a fairly lengthy, but I'll read it verbatim here. Request for final site plan approval for the last phase of the Fairways project. So the Fairways project has been a successful private golf course, townhouse development. Seeker has been was done previously. The current plan is in conformance with the overall approved plans. Phase 3 has the same road layout, number of buildings, number of units, and the same utility design. Championship Drive will be extended to Gillis, which I believe is to the north. This will provide another means of access for the development. The project will include a dedicated right turn lane on Gillis for the new project entrance. So what do we have for the Fairways on tonight?
We have Brian Powers and Chris DeMarzo and Chris Nadler from Mark IV. And I don't see our consultant, David Cox from Passro, but we can handle it.
Okay, good evening. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Yep, you're welcome.
So, similar, you heard the first agenda item. Why don't you give us, I know I read the little blurb from the agenda, but why don't you give us a little more detailed description and narrative on this project? And I guess, Susie, if you can bring up maybe the site plan, if that's probably the best. Yeah, there you go. That's perfect. So yeah, I'll hand the ball over to you guys if you guys can give us a little background on this.
Sure. So the Fairways Phase 3 is a extension of a existing development. It's the third phase, obviously, of a three-phase townhouse project. This phase will adjoin our dedicated road system called Championship Drive all the way out to Gillis Road, which is on the right-hand side of the map that you're looking at. Gillis Road runs up and down the side of the page. The townhouses, there will be 73 individual townhouse units, and they will be within 18 individual townhouse buildings. The development stormwater features have already been installed with the earlier phases, and we will be simply connecting the storm sewer system to those phases. We do have somewhat of a landscaping plan, although we are also relying, there's a lot of vegetation around the periphery of the project and mainly on the eastern side of the project currently, and we're not proposing to disturb that. In fact, a good chunk of the eastern part of the project is open space, except where we abut a piece of property that fronts on Gillis Road. That would be at the bottom of the page to the right-hand side along Gillis Road, if you see that. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I mentioned the road will be dedicated, the utilities, sanitary, storm sewer, and water system will be dedicated. And there will be street lighting in conformance with the street lighting that was previously installed for the development. And I believe the earlier phases of the development have a lighting district. The town maintains the street lighting. And
Okay.
I would turn it back to you.
So you're leveraging the existing stormwater management ponds I see right over by, looks like one of the couple of the greens or a couple of the,
Yep.
the golf course there.
Yeah, that's one individual pond actually that's connected by a couple of large pipes underneath a cart path, but it functions as one pond.
Okay. All right, great. So you're able to tie in all of the units, I guess, on the I guess it'd be on the east side, of where you're extending Championship Drive. You're able to extend, make sure that those whatever, that water is able to connect to those ponds or to those stormwater management ponds?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, that was one of my questions or concerns rather. The other item I had was, I see also on the east side of Championship Drive towards Gillis, there's a swath of woods, we'll say. How much are you cutting into that? I mean, I know this is kind of a cartoon sketch, but how much are you cutting into those trees, into that tree?
Well, the view itself is a little confusing because the darker area of that view is actually the shadow line of the trees.
Okay. Yep.
And we will be clearing to the rear property line or the property line shown because when you install the RG&E, the gas, electric, and telephone utilities for the development, they typically run at the rear of the townhouses. And being a development of this nature, we have to adhere to their setbacks off of the rears of the units, which primarily puts the utilities at the property line. So we will clear to the property line.
Okay.
But again, most of that is already cleared because there's a shadow line that makes it look like the trees go up into the property.
So are you removing any trees or any I guess any kind of trees or what's your plan for that?
In the what is called lots 316, 317, and 318. The rear of those lots have a little bit of vegetation existing that we'll be taking out, but again, there's about a 80-foot swath of open space between the rear of those townhouses and the actual development property line, and we'll be preserving the trees within that 80-foot swath.
Board members, what do you guys think? I have a few more questions, but certainly, what concerns or questions do you guys have?
I guess my couple thoughts I had reviewing this. So I wasn't around for phase 2 or phase 1. Was there anything noted in the construction of those that would bear relevance to phase 3? Things we, did wrong or could have done better the third time, or I don't know if any of us were here then, but
I don't think so. I know I wasn't.
okay.
Not that you did anything wrong, but I would also add, and you can see it in the aerial photograph, the earlier phases, we have one deciduous tree for every townhouse unit that we install. That's typically installed in the front yard along the street line. We also, if you don't know the Mark IV product very well, we pride ourselves in our landscaping around our buildings. So each townhouse building has a significant amount of foundation planting that goes with it. And in the earlier phases, we did not receive any concerns or complaints with what we had done. In fact, we received compliments on how things looked out there. And we intend to follow that same path.
Okay. And so are you familiar with, we have a native plant manual where we, offer suggestions of native plants. I think that's available on our website, just as reference for you as you're designing that.
I am familiar with it, and I will make sure that we are incorporating those plants in the plan.
Great.
I apologize that you don't see my camera. I'm on my wife's computer, and for some reason the camera's not working. I'm not trying to be rude or anything, just,
It's okay.
No worries. Yeah.
No worries. Actually, that's a good action and good comment, Tim. So we'll take that action and forward you a copy of the native plan.
sure.
One other topic or question I have. So I know in the packet you included an excavation plan. What kind of give us a high level overview of that plan? Are you taking any material off? Are you bringing material in? I know it's kind of a little, at least towards Gillis, it's a little hilly or rolly. So I guess I'm kind of interested to hear a little bit on your excavation plan.
Yeah, this is Dave Cox with Passro. We are balancing the site so that we won't have to truck off any material or truck any material in. Minus, we will need to bring stone in for sub base and under the pad and sidewalks and things like that. But we won't need to bring any fill in or take any fill off. So we'll be a balanced site.
Okay.
Andrew, you're right. The Gillis Road end of the job is kind of the higher end of the site, if you will. So we're going to do our best to blend the units into that topography. Currently, the grading plan reflects that units are stepped one unit to the next. That helps us so we're not creating a flat level pad across the entire building. So that's one way to blend into the topography. And we still may look at some grade changes through the building to better accommodate some of that slope area too.
Yeah, slopes are, obviously that falls in our purview. So, and it's just, that's just something to be aware of.
Sure.
Tim, Keith, anything else?
Can they pull up back that picture where, at least the sketch where had the houses, the angle? Yeah, I need some clarification on. So where the slopes are going, do you intend to
So I guess I'll kind of explain it some. So from Gillis Road, the road does go up. We are cutting that hill down some, just so so the road isn't too steep. And then in the rear yards, we are creating drainage swales that go to catch basins that are on lot lines, so that those rear yard swales will go to catch basins, which will then go to the road. And everything is piped to one of the existing ponds on site. It's the main irrigation pond for the golf course. So that's where all our drainage goes. And then as you move in further on the road, it kind of goes down to around 1305 or 305, I should say. 305, 304 in that area is kind of a low point. And then it starts going back up again to around 302, 303. In there's another temporary high point, and then it tails back down and ties into the existing phase 2 project over there by building 201, 204, and 205.
So based on that sloping, what's protecting 303 and 304, those low points, from flooding?
Well, I can't get this in.
So there is it's still up quite a bit higher than that existing irrigation pond. We're up probably a good 10 feet above that irrigation pond. So we're really still up higher, that we shouldn't experience any flooding in this phase at all.
It's just that when you start interfering with the slopes, like Andrew said, it kind of raises a red flag in terms of how it impacts the surrounding areas because of the natural flow. So I just want to see that what, unfortunately, the picture is not very clear, so we can't actually see the topography and the different levels. So I need you to explain that to me.
Yeah, so the road does follow, we do try to follow the existing grade as much as we can. Just some areas, the existing grade is too steep for a road. We tried to make sure that, our roads are 8% or less. If we followed the existing grade exactly, we'd have to be up in 15 or 17%. So we didn't want to do that. But we do try to stay as close to the existing grade as we can. And then all slopes will be stabilized. We have silt fence going around the site for any disturbance. Did that answer your question or no?
Yes, because the picture wasn't clear, so I couldn't see that for myself. So that helps. Thank you.
Yep.
Good question. Good question, Keith. So you guys are also adding an entrance to Gillis, and I noticed something in the packet at the intersection of High Street and Gillis. I know it's not necessarily in our purview here, but what's going on there? Are you adding a turn lane there as well, or?
So one of the original
Yep.
yeah, right there. The original approval from overall mentioned about when phase 3 is constructed about widening Gillis Road intersection to have room for a right turn, so that cars could pull up and make a right turn. So in around 2016, 2018, they did actually widen it. You can see how the gutter kind of kinks to the north or up on the screen. So they did widen the road, but we're still having discussions with the town engineer and town staff if there's adequate, if the town feels that there's adequate space to really have a car make a right-hand turn. One of the other things we're looking at is, can we just do some restriping to make a little more area? As you can see on the south of where that car is at Gillis Road. So if someone is heading north on High Street, taking a right, the pavement's really, really wide there. So maybe we can move that center lane or that center yellow line a little bit to the south to give a little more room. So we might be able to do just some minor restriping just to give a little more room so that cars could make a left and a right at that intersection.
Yeah, that would be, because I noticed that. I drive by there often. I'm in this area. So, if you can not impact those trees or vegetation or, disturb any of that, that would be ideal. If we can strive for that.
We have made both the highway department and the town aware of that concern, because we don't want to take those trees out either.
Right. When do you, what's the timeline on this project?
We would like to start moving earth possibly sometime in April, weather permitting.
I don't have anything else. It's fairly straightforward. I think the two items I'll say right now, we'll provide the native plant manual. That's our action. So we'll get that over to you. And
Andrew, I do have that.
Okay, great.
So we're all good there.
Awesome, great. The other action, as Keith and I were discussing, I think we had to, just be aware of the slopes. I think you've got a good plan, and the silt fencing, obviously, but I think we just need to be aware of that as we proceed. So I think that's my only comment at this point is just to be cautious and aware of slopes, and I'm sure that the planning board will take a closer look at that as well.
Okay.
Pat, you got anything? You've been quiet over there.
Been listening here. No, nothing that I can really poke at that hasn't been kind of discussed yet. I mean, I noticed that I should, nothing really to add.
All right. Any questions for us? For the board?
I guess where do we go from here? We are scheduled to be in front of the planning board in the latter part of February. And do you write a report or comments to them as we've discussed tonight, or how do we proceed?
A good question. So, I'll say we're an advisory board. We advise the planning board for any kind of conservation related items, like we talked about tonight, slopes and water, agreement, infrastructure, native plant manuals, those kinds of things. So what we'll do from here, actions, notes, so the comment that we had would be documented in some meeting minutes, and that would go up to the planning board for their packet, or be put in their packet for whatever meeting, whatever date that you're on. What exactly, or when are you going to be on the schedule
I
here?
think it's the 24th or 23rd,
I think it's the
23rd of February. Yeah.
All right. Let me ask a question to the board.
The 23rd, because that's the fourth Tuesday of the month.
Okay. Would you guys find it beneficial to walk this at all? Or, I mean, I know we're going to be having some snow here, so I guess let me put it out to everyone and see what your thoughts are.
Well, do we expect this to come back before us again?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so, right? Given the timeline.
Yeah, and being that it's phase 3, I don't think so.
If you want to grab your skis and get out there. Snow skis,
No shoes.
snowshoes. Yeah, I'd be open to it for sure.
Okay.
I mean, maybe that'll give Keith a better understanding of that slope too, and you guys. And, I guess it wouldn't hurt.
So are you guys available for a walk? I guess Dave and Brian and Chris.
Absolutely.
Yes. You name the time and we will be there.
Okay. I think that just helps us give a little more fidelity to our input. We might be able to put the slopes all in one, so that would be part of our feedback to the planning board. If we can go out there and say, yeah, it's not a big deal. I think it just helps the cause a little more. So
Yep.
I guess that'll be the other action here. We'll have Kim Reese get in touch with you on some dates. It'll probably be a weekend because there's just not enough time, not enough daylight during the week. So it'll be one of the weekends here coming up before your planning board date.
Okay. One thing I would add about the slopes, David mentioned that we have backyard swales that drain into drainage catch basins that ultimately drain into the pond. Most of the steeper slope areas are draining towards the golf course that our company also owns. So we own that property.
Mhm.
And being it's a golf course and a mature golf course, we're very sensitive to any impact to that golf course. So we will be at our best to provide erosion control and maintain that erosion control to minimize any effect on the golf course.
And one of the other great things about the golf course is since it is the irrigation pond and they are drawing water out of it, that a lot of times out of the year, there's no drainage actually leaving the pond, because it's all being used for irrigation. So there's like zero runoff from the property, during the season.
David, I have a question for you again, and at the risk of going back over that same. When you cut into the slopes, what is the finish going to be between the slope that is cut into and the residential or the living area for the lots?
It'll
Is
be
it gonna
grass.
be grass? Are you going to be benching the cut section, or is it going to be straight and just grass or sloped all the way?
It'll be a 1-on-3 slope, so it can still be mowed. So it'll be a grass mowable slope that it'll be topsoiled, so it'll grow grass well.
Okay, so you're cutting back in order to create like a even landscape, so to
Yep.
speak, as opposed to. Okay.
Yes.
Good question.
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, the action here, the primary walkaway action is to schedule a site walk here in the coming weeks, and Kim will be back in touch with you on that.
All right. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good night, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Meeting minutes from last week. Did anyone get to read them?
I took
Yes.
a look at it.
I did too. They look pretty good. I didn't see anything that needed change. Were you-
Same.
Okay. Were you guys all okay with it? Okay. Okay, well,
Make a motion to approve.
You know what?
Second.
I'll second.
Me too.
all in
Quick, man.
favor?
It's quick.
Yeah,
All in favor?
I
All right. Ed, any updates?
Well, just stay safe. Obviously, road driving a little bit hazardous, probably in the morning. So, kind of this in this case, Zoom is great, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, not bad.
My commute from the city this afternoon was really long.
Yeah.
But you know what's funny though? There were no cars there was no store vehicles. I found
Wow.
that surprising.
Yeah, the throughway was pretty bad. And if you know
Yeah.
the throughway is bad, you know it's real bad.
Exactly. So
So
stay
the,
safe.
the roads were bad, but there weren't no parked vehicles on the side. So I thought it was very surprising. Well,
Yeah.
it's good too. But the roads were crappy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other than that, nothing. I got nothing.
Okay. All right. Well,
Cool.
I guess looking for a motion.
I'll make it.
I'll second it.
I was waiting.
All in favor?
Gentlemen, let you
I-
give me a
Yeah.
nice opportunity.